We're talking about the battle between the body and the soul, so to speak. Let me, on page 412, let's regroup at the bottom of page 412. Vela, klomar lenefesh ha'adam, the soul of a person. Mechamat hitkashruta v'hitchabruta el haguf. Because of its connection and its contact with the body, יש קרבה הדוקה אל הגוף וחושף עז אל עולמו. It has a great desire for its world. The soul is in the company of the body. And just like any person who hangs out with friends, you want to be like your friends. And the neshama has a certain pull towards the body and the world that the body lives in. Ha'olam hashafal b'makom u'v'mala, a world that is lower both in status and its location. Now, location doesn't mean physical location. You know, Makubal means playing higher or lower. It's not exactly higher or lower. It's terms that we use. Olam hatzmicha v'kmisha, a world of creation and deterioration. Ha'olam hazeh, this world, mikomo megurav, this earthly place, the where it rests, v'isuk yeter b'to'alto, and its overly involved care of the body, klomar to'elet haguf. This translation is not correct. The welfare of the body. We know the Rambam himself demands from a person to upkeep the welfare of one's body.
Maintenance?
Yeah, he's running here isuk yeter, an overindulgence in the physicality of the body. This translation might look nice, but it's not correct philosophically in where it's coming to say. You know, it's a world that places too much value on things that are physical, that will eventually leave. And I gave an example 2 Shabbats ago here about people who invest a lot of money in books versus people who invest a lot of money in food. Both of them are important. No one's going to tell you not to eat. But the $300 you spent on a steak in a fancy place with your wife, that's just a few hours later is going to disappear from your body into the toilet in the San Diego sewer system. Kehillat, that's what the Kehillat writes. You buy a book, that book is going to last you forever and ever and ever, at least as long as you're going to need it for. And therefore, yes, both of them are things that you can invest in. But when you are always investing in your food, and very little in things that are, it doesn't have to be a book, I chose a mashal, in things that last longer than food, then it shows you that there's something off about a person like that. It's something incorrect. It's like the people who will drive 5 miles to save 51 cents on a tomato per pound. You know, you're driving 5 miles, it's gasoline. It's an incorrect calculation as to where you're saving in life. Now there are people who don't have a choice, maybe, but for someone who can make this choice, you have to know how to prioritize things. And to prioritize the body's indulgences, not its needs, its indulgences, more than that which the soul needs, is considered an incorrect judgment. On page 414, V'davar zeh tivi hinehu. This thing is natural. This tendency, it's effortless. That's the word it uses. Natural is what I prefer. The reason why, natural, the Rabbi Yonatan is telling us, not even it's a translation from Arabic, he's telling us an important idea. There was a rabbi that once came to speak at the yeshiva when I was in Jerusalem. And he said, you know, when you're about, everyone says, Baruch Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael, and the room goes quiet for the Amidah. And instead of thinking about Hashem, you start thinking about how much money you owe the bank. You start thinking about all your problems. You're thinking about the person you fought with. You're thinking about your new inventions that if you created. All kinds of things under the sun you think about. It's your Yetzer Hara, it's your evil inclination coming to attack you. No, parents stopped him. He said, please stop. I said, why? He said, please stop calling all of my students people who have a Yetzer Hara that tries to interrupt their prayers. He said it's a natural thing of the human body that when something goes quiet, you start to think. That's the way humans work. He said that's the nature of a human being. He said that's not a Yetzer Hara, that's not an evil inclination. Not everything is an evil inclination. Sometimes things are just natural to a person. And I remember sitting in that room and feeling, 2 seconds ago, I felt like this evil person that's thinking about how much money I owe, and because of my Yetzer Hara, it's trying to get in the way of my prayer. And in one sentence, it's not a Yetzer Hara, it's a nature. So you have to prepare yourself that the room will go quiet, and it's going to go quiet so that I can concentrate on my tefillot. Not to battle some make-believe Yetzer Hara that's coming to attack me right now. And so, the Rabbi Yonatan is not saying this tendency is effortless, that's a Yetzer Hara. This tendency is natural. It's natural for a soul that is so tied up with a body to go after the desires of the body. שכן אינו מחייב לא התעסקות בחוכמה ולא הכשרה מוסרית ותורתית. Because it doesn't demand from you any need for study or training or any knowledge of mitzvot or behavior to follow your body, to follow your needs, your wants, your lusts, your pleasures. You don't have to read a book to know how to do that. Your body just does that. To know how to refine yourself, that requires discipline, that requires study. And it makes sense that a human being will follow his body's base urges and needs more than he'll be naturally refining himself, because refinement of character is not a natural process.
I always find it interesting that if you read the Rambam and other sources, it doesn't say you should have kavana for every single letter, but it says have kavana here. Make sure you have kavana here, like when you say Patefi Yadecha, or at certain points of Amidah or Shema. It doesn't demand it for the whole to feel like, obviously it's the best goal you can have.
But we have to lay down a framework of this is what is at least necessary. Correct. It's a...
Because the mind easily wanders.
But this is really what Rabbi Yonatan is telling us. We should pay him a lot of money for. So many people, speakers, authors, talk about the struggles of the body in this world and its pleasures and Yetzer Hara. Yes, there is a Yetzer. Yes, the Yetzer tries. But if you would take Angel works on helicopters. If you would take a huge hunk of metal and throw it up in the air, it falls. Why does it fall?
Gravity.
It has the Yetzer Hara. It always wants to go down to the ground, go down to the earth. It has a pride. It loves the ground is representative of the original sin. You could give a whole drasha about a helicopter and the Yetzer Hara of a helicopter. But really, things that are big hunks of steel, their nature is to fall. That is gravity. To make the helicopter fly is an incredible feat, but that's not natural for the helicopter. You have to do a lot of things to make that helicopter fly.
Out of all of aviation, the helicopter defeats the physics. Like it's not supposed to fly. It's really not supposed to.
I once heard an airplane pilot say, he said, helicopters don't fly, they're just so ugly that the earth repels them. That was the...
It says that the helicopter beats the air into submission. That's how it flies.
Really?
An airplane has aerodynamics and like lift, and not a helicopter. Literally just push it, like it forces itself off the ground.
So look, I chose a good mashal more than an airplane. And this is important to understand because what it does, when you know, what do they say? The first rule of war is to know your foes. You have to know who you're fighting. If you think you're fighting a Yetzer Hara, and really it's not your Yetzer Hara, it's your nature, you're not going to win this war. Because you're fighting something that's not there. You're fighting the wrong enemy. The enemy that you should be fighting, it's not an enemy. I have to know, my body will want to do this. And therefore, if I want this helicopter to fly, then I have to figure out how to make it fly. But look how many pieces of steel you have in your life you don't try to make fly. There's a mailbox outside made out of steel. Why don't I care if it flies? It's a mailbox, not supposed to fly. But if I know that I'm supposed to fly, how do I know I'm supposed to fly? The Torah tells me so. And then Torah gives you a guideline of how it is that one should fly. Okay, so then that's already something, this piece of metal has to fly. But don't expect that my body should know that on its own. Don't look at somebody who doesn't know and start screaming at them and judging. What do they know? How Perez said, sometimes he hears rabbis speak, it's all about how many avirot you do and how bad you are. And it's a very popular style of speech. Why? I don't know, but it's popular. And so imagine you go to the field, and the cow's eating grass. And over here it's got, a special grass that's good for its health. And over there it's also got grass, regular grass. And you tell the cow, why are you eating this grass? It's better for you. And the cow doesn't speak English. So what do? You start hitting it with a stick. You start beating the cow. And the cow is like, what do you want from me? Eat that grass. The cow doesn't understand what you want from it. And you keep beating it and beating it. He says, that's what many rabbis look like. What are you beating this cow for? The cow doesn't know what you want from it. I don't even know that I'm supposed to fly. You're mad at me why I don't fly. Who said I'm supposed to fly in the first place? Yeah. It's not a natural intuition of a person. The intuition of a person is to do what the body does. Because of the deep connection the soul has to the body. It becomes bound and fused with it. The two literally become one. When a person is born, and he comes out to the wind of the world, he starts to feel pain. ובוכה על כל מכאוב קטן שחש בגופו, and every little bodily discomfort causes him to cry, to feel pain. ויתענג ויתרווח ויענה מכל אחד מהמנעמים שיקבל גופו. He says, and everything that will make him feel good is what's going to make him happy. That's the human body. The baby learns very quickly, when I fall, it hurts. When I eat ice cream, it's nice. Whatever it is the baby's learning, there's no yetzer hara involved in here. It's a trial and error of how a person figures out what's good for me and what's bad for me. ואילו שלמותו הרוחנית באותה שעה כמוה כעין מפאת מהותה בתחילת צמיחתו ושקיעתה בחומר גשמי. He has practically no spiritual completeness because the soul is dim at that early stage and is drowning in physicality. והוא שאמר הנביא, ועיר פרא אדם ייוולד. That a man is born as a wild donkey. This is not a mean thing that you're saying about a person. A baby's neshama is not developed. It's not think that the soul of a baby is not, where can I find the Masa Merkava, the chariot of Hashem? The baby is trying to think like, when's my next feeding? When does I have a dirty diaper? It makes me uncomfortable. Who's going to change me? It's desires, its needs, its care, its passion is about very simple things. וככל שיגדל,
What's chomer?
Chomer is physicality.
Oh, it's the word.
Chamor.
Like chamor, like a donkey,
Like
but it's very good, it's very connected.
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
why many of the Mekubalim suggest that when it says the Mashiach ben Yosef is going to come riding on a donkey,
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's riding on a donkey, it means it's going to come to redeem the Jewish people in a physical fashion. So that we view that as the building of the state of Israel.
And is that...
It's not a spiritual revolution of the Jewish people, but a physical revolution. We have a country, we have a state, we're building an infrastructure that later will be sanctified by a Mashiach ben David.
And that's why they also, like, it says that Esau descendants will be like a wild donkey or a wild ass.
Chomer, it goes back to their being completely drowning in physicality.
Right.
And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that the redemption is going to come through the body.
Okay, so these are all coming from the same roots. וכל שיגדל כן ישתכלל גופו, and the more he grows and the body develops, וכן תתגלה נפשו. The body's development is directly linked to the soul's development. ויתחזק הקשר בינה ובין הגוף. And the soul and the body start to strengthen their connection to each other. ויתעסק בתועלת גופו, and the more he deals with his body, תגדל תשוקתו אליו. Its desire for these interests increase. אם יימצא איפה מה שמפתח בו את שכלולו הרוחני, if one learns how to complete the soul through study and training, על ידי לימוד והתקשרות, אזי יתעסק זמן מה ובדרך מדרכים בשכלול נפשו. If a person experiences from the study of Torah, from the growth of spirituality, the same kind of pleasure that they find in physicality, then they'll continue doing so. אזי יתעסק זמן מה ובדרך מדרכים בשכלול נפשו. Then of course a person will continue to pursue that kind of endeavor. וזמן מה ובדרך מן הדרכים בתועלת גופו שטבעית לו. And over time, this will also be a method of providing for the body, and that will come naturally. You have to understand, the word here that the Rabbeinu Avraham, we need to use with him is it's an organic process.
It's not asceticism.
It's not ascetic, and it's not forced. A lot of times, just do this Shabbat, or do this code, or learn this piece of Gemara, and eventually it'll kick in somewhere. No, I mean, if I'm forcing myself to do something I don't like, and I hate, and it repulses me, it doesn't mean I shouldn't do Shabbat or kosher, but it means I'm not doing it right. Because if my neshama doesn't enjoy the spirituality of Shabbat the same way it enjoys a big fat bowl of chulent on Shabbat, meaning if my body likes food of Shabbat, but my soul doesn't care for the spirit of Shabbat, something is off in my Shabbat experience. And instead of blaming the person for not being if someone tastes the food and they don't like it, it's not because their taste buds are bad, it's because you made bad food. Get over yourself. Are there rare circumstances where, they're used to a different kind of cuisine? Fine, let's put it out there. But if there's something that's repulsive to everybody at the table, the chances are that it was a master chef and everybody's hating the food. Not so much. And the same thing with a person's spiritual experience. You can't expect from a little child, and for anybody who's at the spiritual level of a little child, to be at this place where they're going to appreciate every spiritual experience they have. But if they find the right avenue for a spiritual connection, for their soul to grow, and the soul will receive some kind of sipuk, some kind of nourishment, you better believe that a person will continue doing that. when a person goes to some Buddhist retreat and they find meditation to be meaningful to their spirituality, and that gets their soul excited, and they come to shul, and it's all about mumbling words and some guy giving a sermon about why there's an extra vav in Parshat Mishpatim, then you can imagine where they're going to go for their spiritual experience.
And then he
Don't always blame the person.
Right.
Right. A lot of the time.
Meaning there is a mavak, there is something contradictory between body and soul. But says Rabbi Yonatan, it doesn't have to be that way. There can be harmony between the two of them. And the last things he tells us for today. V'im lo yimatzeh ma shifatchehu, but if one never see, the translation is incorrect. If a person will not find something that develops him, that intrigues his soul, that challenges his soul, yisha'er chesrono haruchani kemot shehu, his spiritual lacking, his spiritual, there's a word for this. I used to know English. It's not spiritual inferiority when you lack something. It's
Deprived.
the word. His spiritual malnourishment. Is there a word like that? Can I say
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. If that's lacking, it will stay the same way. He'll stay spiritually malnourished. If he doesn't find the right food for his neshama, it's not going to feed his neshama. And then inevitably, his physical endeavors and pursuits will increase in intensity. And then what will happen is that the greatness of the soul and the energy of the soul and all the potential of the soul will be wasted on the service of the body and engrossment in it. And this is what I was translating on the previous page. The Rambam is not talking about the welfare of the body, rather of the indulgence in the body. It's not the same thing, and this is important to correct it in the translation. That is, if a person doesn't find what they're looking for spiritually, they will try to drown it out somewhere else physically. And even if it's not, like, my wife and I had a conversation today in the morning about addiction. Oftentimes, addicts share the same, there's a big movie going around in San Diego now, these screenagers, teenagers that are addicted to screens. I don't know why they pick up the teenagers. I've seen everybody in every age range
Yeah.
addicted to screens.
My stepdad was.
Turns out the percentage of people who are actually addicted to their phones is 8 to 15% of the people who use phones. Which is pretty much in line with any other addiction of anything else. It's not anything
Used to say that about
extraordinary.
television, video games.
Yep. Now I'm not here to talk to you about is addiction good, is it bad, or screen's good or screen's bad. Katonti. This is not my area of expertise. But they find what's the profile of a person who gets addicted to something? There are certain mental and emotional issues. A person, for example, is depressed, or they have low self-esteem. Even a person's financial status. People that live in a poverty-struck society, on the internet, for example, it's an escape. They can be somebody who they're not. They can be on Facebook and they can put a picture of them in Hawaii, and they could. Nobody's going to judge my clothes because I'm behind the screen. You don't see that I can't wear a brand name. You don't see that you can live in a fantasy that other people can't, and therefore you become dependent on something. Or you feel socially unaccepted in society. It doesn't have to be financially, for another reason. And then things become an escape for you. Hold on to something else. There is an element of that here also. Your soul is not finding sipuk, it's not finding nourishment, fulfillment. It's going to seek it in another way. You'll drown it out with alcohol. You'll drown it out with sex. You'll drown it out with drugs. Whatever else is going to try to get their body on fire. The Rabbi Yonatan is talking here about something a little more subtle than that. It's a very delicate thing that he's saying. He's saying it's not that a person is drowning out his spirituality with his physicality. Rather, a person is constantly looking for what is good for their self, what is enjoyable. They learn to stay away from things that are bad and to go towards things that are good. And just like a baby learns that touching hot things is not comfortable, then they're going to stay away from hot water. A person who touches bad spirituality will eventually just stay away from it. Like a rabbi say that somebody who was burned in hot water, you ever turn on the sink and it's hot and my wife was washing dishes beforehand, you burn your hands. Now, even when you turn on the cold water, you get scared. The Talmud says someone who is burned in hot water is going to be afraid even with cold water. then a person says, listen, I didn't find a spiritual avenue for me. I'm going to focus on what does feel good to me. And they focus on their physicality, not to drown out their spirituality, but rather because that's where they keep finding positive experiences, or at least what feels good to be an experience. And says, Rabbi Yonatan, what do you expect from such a person? It's like a baby. A baby, you don't expect them to run after the Maseh Merkavah, the chariots of Hashem. The same thing with a person who reached this level and they didn't find that spiritual avenue. Much of what we see in the Jewish community today can be put on this. You know, there was a video, and I'm sorry to share it with you because it hurts me inside a lot. But there's a synagogue about 5 blocks from Rav Peretz's house. It's not a synagogue; it's really a church. Messianic Jews. On Rehov Strauss, yeah. In the heart, it's literally 6 blocks from Mash Alley. They don't even know it's there. In fact, I didn't even know it was there, and I used to walk by it at least twice a week, until I watched a documentary about them.
Oh.
And you should see them pray. Running around the room, hands up in the air. I mean, it kind of looks like. It was quite amusing actually for a person who'd never seen a prayer service like that. Like little kids like falling on the floor, jumping up and down, tambourines, jumping over benches. It was like one unbelievable music, the band, drums. It was like a not normal experience. And I can imagine that if you're there and you're into it and you're running and you're jumping and you're screaming, this is a really powerful experience. Whether you could argue that's how you pray or not is irrelevant to this conversation. But when they go then down the road to the great synagogue, and it's a choir of 100 men and some cantor, and they're sitting there, and it's like, sit in your chair quietly and listen to them pray. I can only imagine that they're not going to go back to the great synagogue and walk straight back to where they came from. That spirituality was engaging. Is it incorrect? Of course, you know what I believe about Messianic Judaism. Is this belief system allowed according to halakha? No, absolutely not. But don't blame everybody who runs away for just not being able to appreciate it. Sometimes we don't give them anything to appreciate.
Yeah.
When people run, don't always blame those who run.
Yeah.
Now, it could be that there's nothing we could do. I don't know. Maybe there's only so much creativity you can have in a prayer service. That could be. But if Jewish people keep finding Judaism to be unengaging and irrelevant, that's their experience. Don't say, oh, they're so caught up in their physicality, their animalistic soul is devouring their spell, whatever lingo people use, they don't understand what they're saying. Says the Rambam, this is very simple human psychology. People look for what is good, for what is positive, for what makes them feel good, not in a negative way, in a positive way. And when they don't find it spiritually, so they just focus on what they can find, and that's going to be their physical indulgences. And don't blame them for it. That's not their problem. Though it's something that definitely needs to be worked on, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.